That's the tight end, Zach Davidson.
After that wild sideline blow-up, the NFL dropped the hammer. Shilo Sanders is banned for life. This wasn't some one-time slip either. It was just the latest mess in a long line of ugly incidents tied to his name. But the real jaw-dropper? What Sanders did just minutes after hearing the ban. Let me break it down. The 2025 meltdown that officially torched his career. The preseason was supposed to be his comeback season, his redemption arc. At 25 years old, the son of Hall of Famer Deion "Primetime" Sanders had already tasted rejection, going undrafted despite having the name and the college resume. Still, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers decided to roll the dice, signing him on a 3-year, $2.5 million deal, with over $800,000 guaranteed in 2025 alone. This was his golden ticket to finally step out of his father's shadow and make a name for himself. But on August 23, 2025, in what should have been just another preseason tune-up against the Buffalo Bills, the whole dream blew up in seconds. Late in the second quarter, with the Bucs down and frustrated in a game they'd eventually lose 23-19, Shilo got tangled up with Buffalo tight end Zach Davidson, and here's where it spiraled out of control. Davidson, a massive 6 feet 7 inches and 251 pounds of muscle, kept shoving and driving Sanders back, even after the whistle had already blown.
Last name can be a blessing and a curse. It's not normal that free agents have breaking news that they're being released. He's an undrafted free agent, and because his name is Sanders, the blessing and the curse, people say, well, Shannon, he only got an opportunity because his last...
Cameras caught Sanders being forced 15 yards downfield like he was being bulldozed. The clips later went viral everywhere, flooding social feeds within minutes. Davidson grabbed at the side of Shilo's helmet, arms flailing dangerously close to his face mask, while Shilo crouched low, trying to hold ground. It was dirty. It was excessive. And everybody watching knew it pushed him over the edge. Witnesses said that final shove was the spark, the moment Shilo snapped. Instead of walking away, he popped up out of that crouch and launched a strike straight at Davidson's helmet. Some called it a closed fist punch, others swore it looked like an open hand slap. Either way, it connected with the left side of Davidson's helmet and instantly sealed Sanders' fate. That one heated swing didn't just cost him yards on the field, it cost him his entire NFL career. That punch didn't just land on Zach Davidson's helmet, it landed right in front of 2 referees. Both threw flags instantly, hitting Sanders with an unnecessary roughness penalty that flipped the game on its head. The fallout was brutal and fast. Sanders was tossed from the game on the spot, and that single ejection carried way more weight than just missing the rest of the matchup. Tampa linebacker John Bullock tried to play peacemaker, grabbing Sanders and pulling him away. But the damage was already done. His rep, his future, his bag, all slipping right through his fingers.
Give me the phone. I'm not playing with you. Give me the phone. So I grabbed his arm, and I don't grab it hard. I just try to stop him because he looks like he's about to walk out of the building. So I put my hand on his arm, and he jerks away like really hard, and he grazes.
And here's the crazy part. Davidson walked away untouched. Even though the footage clearly showed his fingers jammed inside Sanders' face mask just seconds before the hit, he skated free. No flag, no punishment. Instead, he mocked Shilo, throwing a too small gesture right in his face like it was some playground beef. The Bills capitalized immediately. 1st and 10 at Tampa's 11, and then boom, Tyrell Shavers hauled in a jaw-dropping one-handed touchdown on the very next snap. It was the perfect example of how Shilo's lack of control didn't just wreck his own career, it wrecked his entire squad's momentum. Head coach Todd Bowles wasn't having it. Known for his strict defense-first style, Bowles lit up the press conference after the loss. He called the ejection flat-out inexcusable, making it crystal clear Sanders had crossed a line that couldn't be walked back. And the front office wasted no time backing him up. Less than 24 hours later, August 24th, 2025, Sanders was slapped with the news he'd been waived. The Bucs tried to spin it like it was just part of the regular preseason cuts, but everyone knew the truth. The timing screamed loud and clear. They were done with Shilo Sanders. The news didn't just trickle out. It exploded through Shilo Sanders' heavyweight agents, Drew Rosenhaus and Robert Bailey of Rosenhaus Sports. These aren't your run-of-the-mill reps. Rosenhaus is a shark, infamous for his next question catchphrase and known for squeezing monster contracts out of NFL front offices. The fact that even power brokers like Rosenhaus and Bailey couldn't save Sanders' roster spot shows just how toxic his actions looked to the league. Reports say the agents fired off an urgent plea across the NFL, begging teams to take a chance on Shilo. They pitched him as a versatile safety with pedigree, raw athleticism, and plenty of upside. Translation: ignore the punch. He's still worth it. But instead of showing strength, the public campaign came off desperate, putting a spotlight on how radioactive Sanders had become overnight. And the football world. They weren't buying it. Analysts and ex-players tore him apart on air. They pointed to his weak preseason numbers, just 4 solo tackles and 1 quarterback hit in 3 games. As proof that this wasn't just about a punch, they claimed he lacked true NFL speed, instincts, and IQ, and that the incident was the final excuse Tampa needed to cut ties. But critics went deeper, turning the spotlight on the Sanders family itself. Some said Shilo's meltdown exposed a bigger issue, a culture of entitlement, with discipline and accountability always taking a backseat to fame. Others argued he was being judged harder because of his last name, claiming the NFL was eager to make an example out of Primetime's son. Either way, the debate was ugly, loud, and everywhere. And then came the most damning revelation. This wasn't Shilo's first violent outburst on the field. Digging into his past, people began piecing together a long trail of incidents that painted a darker picture. That August 2025 punch wasn't some isolated mistake. It was just the latest page in a messy saga of volatility and controversy that had shadowed him since his teenage years. To really grasp how a young man with every privilege could wreck his NFL dreams so completely, you've got to look back at the dark trail of incidents and family drama that shaped Shilo Sanders. And the most shocking and legally devastating a moment came way back on September 17th, 2015, when he was just 15 years old. The scene was Focus Academies, better known as AAA Academy, a private school in Dallas where his father, Deion Sanders, wasn't just the CEO, but also the football coach. What should have been a simple disciplinary check over cell phone use spiraled into a violent attack that would cast a shadow over Shilo's name forever. It all started while Shilo was serving in-school suspension for being disruptive. Despite the strict no-phone policy, he was using his cell to reach out to his mother, Pilar Sanders, during her messy divorce and custody war with Deion. When school security guard John Darren, a 48-year-old former minor league ballplayer, stepped in to confiscate the phone under Deion's own orders, everything went left in an instant. According to court filings and multiple investigations, Shilo lost control. He drove his elbow into Darren's chest, then kept striking him as the guard crumpled to the floor. The assault was so vicious that Darren had to be rushed to the hospital by ambulance, where doctors revealed catastrophic injuries: a broken neck, severe cervical spine damage, permanent nerve trauma, and even irreversible incontinence. The medical aftermath was grim. Darren underwent a grueling 5-level spinal fusion surgery, left permanently disabled, and now relies on monthly disability checks just to get by. His life was permanently derailed, all because he tried to enforce a basic school rule, one that Shilo's own father had ordered. For a man simply doing his job, the price was devastating. And for Shilo, it was the first red flag in a long pattern of violent, career-killing behavior. What makes the 2015 assault even more disturbing is what investigators uncovered afterward: a clear pattern. Multiple probes into the attack all pointed the same way, with Shilo found at fault in 4 out of 5 rulings. By 2022, a Texas court flat out stated the truth. On September 17, 2015, Shilo Sanders did in fact cause physical harm and injuries to John Darren by assaulting him. The ruling also hammered home that Darren's catastrophic injuries were the direct and foreseeable result of Shilo's violent actions. But instead of facing the music, Shilo and his family dragged the case out for years, trying every legal trick in the book to dodge accountability. When the trial finally rolled around in March 2022, Shilo didn't even bother to show up. He claimed he never got notice because of an outdated address and that he couldn't afford a lawyer. That excuse backfired big time. The judge handed down a default judgment of nearly $11.9 million against him. A number that didn't just reflect Darren's life-altering injuries, but also the cold disregard Shilo showed for the entire legal process. And instead of owning up, Shilo doubled down on controversy. In October 2023, he filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Colorado, trying to erase the debt completely. The move enraged critics. Not only was his family wealthy, but Shilo himself was cashing in on NIL deals worth over $1.1 million. Court filings showed he owned flashy assets, like a $75,000 Mercedes and $75,000 in jewelry, even while claiming financial hardship. He initially listed $400,000 in assets, later cutting it down to $320,000. But lawyers for Darren argued he was hiding money in shell LLCs and lowballing his NIL income to slip through the cracks. Darren's attorney fought hard, stressing that debts tied to willful and malicious injury can't just be wiped clean in bankruptcy. And as more details surfaced, the hypocrisy got louder. Shilo was out here spending recklessly, living large, while trying to escape the financial wreckage of an assault that left another man permanently disabled. And the trouble didn't stop there. The 2015 assault was just the beginning of a long trail of warning signs. His college career at Colorado was riddled with incidents that exposed his anger issues and lack of discipline. Shilo built a rep for late hits and dirty play that made him one of the most disliked defensive backs on the field. The low point came on October 12, 2024, against Kansas State. It was supposed to be his comeback game after a broken forearm, but instead, it was a disaster. He missed tackles, blew assignments, and looked completely lost. Even his own father, head coach Shilo Sanders, didn't sugarcoat it. He told reporters Shilo's performance was horrible and admitted his son looked rusty. But critics said it wasn't just rust. It was a pattern of reckless play and poor judgment that had followed him everywhere. That ugly Kansas State game wasn't just about missed tackles. It was about another dangerous late hit. Shilo Sanders drilled running back DJ Giddens so hard that fans online said it looked career-threatening. This wasn't a one-off mistake. It was a pattern, and it stretched far beyond football. By 2023, Sanders was in hot water again, this time for his mouth. Before the Oregon game, cameras caught him jawing at opponents, and the footage was damning. You could hear him barking, "I'll beat the fucks out of every one of you and your coach." For a player with a violent track record, those words weren't just trash talk. They were a chilling reminder of how quickly his temper could spill over. But to really understand how Shilo spiraled, you've got to look at his family backdrop. One of the messiest in celebrity sports history. His parents, Deion and Pilar Sanders, went through a divorce so bitter it became tabloid gold. Accusations flew like bullets, custody wars, cheating claims, even domestic violence. Back in 2012, Pilar was arrested after allegedly assaulting Deion at their home in Prosper, Texas, an incident 12-year-old Shilo saw firsthand. From an early age, chaos and confrontation were the norm. The custody battles were brutal, both parents dragging each other through the mud, questioning each other's fitness to raise kids. For Shilo, stuck in the middle, violence almost became second nature, and Deion's own role in shaping his son's mindset can't be ignored. At first, he supported the security guard, John Darren, after the 2015 assault. But then he flipped completely, suddenly calling Darren a grifter and leaking edited clips to TMZ to make Shilo look like the victim. That public defense taught Shilo one thing. No matter how bad the behavior, Dad would cover it up. And that gave him the dangerous belief he could act without consequences. Meanwhile, the financial scars from that 2015 attack never went away. The same guard, Darren, openly admitted he actually wanted Shilo to succeed in the NFL. Not because he forgave him, but because the bigger Shilo's paycheck, the more chance he had to finally collect on that $11.9 million judgment. The irony was cruel. The victim rooting for the man who put him in a wheelchair, while Shilo kept blowing up every opportunity in sight. Even inside locker rooms, the frustration grew. Teammates and coaches whispered about his reckless style, the late hits, the hot-headed penalties, the inability to keep his emotions in check when the team needed discipline the most. Over time, that same lack of control off the field bled right into his football career and left him labeled as a liability no team wanted to touch. These red flags weren't just overlooked. They likely explained why Shilo Sanders slipped through the NFL draft, completely untouched, despite his bloodline and athletic tools. What made it worse? Instead of facing the root of his behavioral problems, the Sanders family doubled down on spin, painting him as the victim, hiding behind legal maneuvers, and never truly addressing the chaos. To understand why that August 2025 punch became the final straw, you've got to rewind to where it all started. Privilege, legacy, and a golden path that was supposed to lead to greatness. This wasn't just the story of a failed player. This was the collapse of a dynasty's son. Born February 9, 2000, Shilo Deion Sanders came into the world with everything: money, connections, and genetics that screamed superstar. His father, none other than Deion Primetime Sanders, a cultural icon who wasn't just a Hall of Famer, but a two-time Super Bowl champ, 8-time Pro Bowler, and one of only 2 humans to ever play in both a Super Bowl and a World Series. His mother, Pilar, was a model and actress, adding Hollywood-level spotlight to the family name. Shilo was practically born with cameras on him, destined for stardom before he even put on pads. But entitlement and violence shadowed him early. That brutal late hit on Kansas State's DJ Giddens was just the latest in a series of reckless moments that scouts couldn't ignore. Fans called it dangerous and unnecessary, and NFL evaluators saw a troubling trend: a player who lacked discipline and too often lost control. His own father didn't sugarcoat it either. Deion told the media Shilo's performance was horrible, admitting not even injury rust could excuse the way he played that night. So when draft weekend came in 2025, his name never got called. And that wasn't by accident. NFL scouts had already decided his pedigree couldn't outweigh his liabilities. The humiliation cut so deep that Shilo publicly joked about firing his father as his agent before signing with power rep Drew Rosenhaus in a last-ditch effort to save his image. Eventually, Tampa Bay threw him a lifeline, a 3-year, $2.5 million contract that looked sweet on paper. But insiders knew the truth. It wasn't faith, it was a gamble. The Bucs were betting on talent buried under controversy, fully aware they were taking on a player surrounded by serious question marks. For Shilo Sanders, it was one last shot at redemption, a shot he would blow in spectacular fashion. The Buccaneers, a franchise praised for discipline and structure under head coach Todd Bowles, clearly thought they could polish Shilo Sanders into a professional. But his short run in Tampa Bay proved the exact opposite. Across 3 preseason games, the numbers told the story. Only 4 solo tackles and a single quarterback hit. For a guy fighting for his career, that wasn't just disappointing. It was embarrassing. The battle for that final safety slot was tight. Kayvon Merriweather and Rashad Wisdom were grinding for it, while Antoine Winfield Jr. had the starter role locked down. Shilo had the chance, the name, the platform. But when the lights came on, he just couldn't deliver. And that's the real tragedy here. Shilo Sanders didn't just fail, he self-destructed. He was born into fame and wealth, raised by one of the greatest football legends of all time, and handed opportunities most players only dream about. Yet over and over again, he made choices that cut his own legs out from under him. Even when his NFL career officially crashed, Deion Sanders stood by his son, showing love but dodging the hard truth. That Shilo's downfall wasn't bad luck. It was his own repeated mistakes. And that right there exposed the bigger picture. This wasn't just about one player blowing his shot. It was about what happens when privilege collides with accountability. In today's NFL, no amount of celebrity, nepotism, or last names can shield you from the consequences of violent outbursts and poor decision-making. Shilo's story proved it in real time. He became unemployable at the highest level of the game, not because he lacked raw talent, but because he couldn't get out of his own way. And so, the son of prime time became the perfect cautionary tale, proof that even the brightest spotlight can't hide self-destruction. Shilo Sanders had every advantage imaginable, and still threw it all away. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And check out one of the videos on your screen for more shocking stories just like this one.